Greetings, peace, greetings. Yeah, man. Very vulnerable moment right now. Oh my God, as soon as I get comfortable, never mind, I got wipes. Bro, this is a very, I'm gonna say very, but emphasizes vulnerability right now. It got to be the eclipse energy, especially what's going on inwardly and then how it's playing off outwardly. Again, I tell you, I'll sit with these things before I come on here. Should just come out. Can't even stay in there. So anyway, I was getting this clarity. Get my chapstick ready. I can tell I'm at a lot of time. This is like I said, this is gonna make you, for my independent thinkers out there, or those who can comprehend and understand and overstand on another level. Let's give gratitude to Source, to the Creator, the Most High, for making all this possible. Again, this is a very interesting topic. I don't even know the topic that it is. Shout out to the ancestors, known and unknown, for the highest good of all. Gratitude. So yeah, this one, I will sit here, like I said, I'm just expressing as I go. So for those who, let's say, have children, right? Even if you don't have children, I want you to, I'm gonna bridge a lot of, I want you to visualize this and actually feel, if you could recall the first look your mother or father gave you. And even if you couldn't, but imagine, like, speaking from experience, like I said, this is a very, like, open and honest, like, very vulnerable topic, or just what I'm going to express. But again, a part of rebuilding self-confidence has a lot to deal with how one sees themselves. That's been one of the most challenging and biggest, like, humps that I've had to overcome throughout the years, because again, that belief system in itself could be determined by someone else's ideology or how they view themselves, and depending on if it's in a healthy, holistic manner and not from a fearful place or a disgusting way, or so forth, it can be detrimental to one's developmental process of their identity. For me, I used to be so focused. Like, I would get complimented on my natural looks, of course. That's one thing. But as I start to evolve more within myself and start looking at things completely different from a spiritual perspective, I ask myself, like, if we have books or say certain things that say we're made in the image of God or the Creator, the Most High, and I ask myself, why is it so attacked or scrutinized when people decide to see themselves as such? And why does that highlight the insecurities of people who are unable to see the not even just perfection, but the beauty in how their genetic makeup, their DNA, their everything from their bone structure to how they look externally. Now, being that from the effects of the distorted mother and the distorted father in the society, how we have been groomed to focus more on the external, I can see how this has become more of a value-based society on things that are more, that are really, I ask myself, like, where's the substance and value really in that? And I'm not saying people that don't have a natural beauty to be able to use their, natural gifts to express and obtain whatever they feel from it. Where I'm going with this is more so like, we haven't had a world where we're constantly reminded how much the beauty inside of us matters as well. And the reason why this is so vital is because the stereotypes even around beauty, the concept around what beauty is. People say that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's very much true. But how many of us realize or have come to the awareness of really seeing that beauty within ourselves? And the reason I bring up the child aspect, and even like asking yourself, like, how did your mother look at you, your father? And then not only that, how does she feel about you? How does she feel about men? And then how does the men in your life feel about women? And I ask myself, how is that not reflected in their approach to women, and also their outlook as far as beyond the present? Some may call it the future. Like, how do people not like see that of as importance of enabling the patriarchal, or men, or anyone, whatever they subscribe to be able to see people in such, like, reflecting their own, let's say, insecurities or disgust for themselves or hatred for themselves. Now, one of the biggest things I've had to overcome is even the image behind darker men, how we're supposed to genetically look, build, have or not have, the haves and the have-nots. Just so many stereotypes around it. And then what do they call it? Beating the odds, or when the odds are stacked all against you. And then you get to that place like, wow, I've overcome everything. That even the fact of, through my integrity and courage, I've overcome all these stereotypes or these narratives that was pretty much casted. It's like you cast what do they call it? Like this audience of people who have watched me most of my life. This cast, like you cast a spell, but also when you're talking about like in acting, like a cast of people who are pretty much, it's almost like watching the main character. And I'm gonna use myself. And there's so many different perspectives from to someone, you know how this thing where, there's this, the lover in there, and then there's this person, and then there's the mom, there's characters, and then, I feel like now I'm at that place of like the plot twist. How do I now change and, this whole narrative? And that's why I feel like the beauty of the plot twist is like, let's say that casting the illusion of what societal norms around darker men should be and how they should be perceived to the world and the image and so forth. Like, I was like, wow, bitch, plot twist. Let me show you that this ain't that over here. Or even the fact of how family should be viewed, or how I should not step into my own independence and be relying on others, or a system that really never encouraged me to step into that, or people or places that never were more concerned about if I genuinely really cared at all about my well-being. So I'm saying like, wow, plot twist. I do care about it, whether someone does or not. So, again, going back to the image aspect of why I always talk about the inner child has a lot to do with the fact of the importance of how we are even looked at younger. And the reason I say that is because when I was very younger, I can say honestly, I'm gonna use the term, had a lot of evil eyes on me. I didn't really know why until I start realizing, as I start to step more into my interdependence and independence, as I start stepping towards into my power and start recognizing the vices, the entities, the spiritual warfare, amongst other things, people, characters in my life, start recognizing like, whoa, it's not so much it always been about me, but the importance of why should we support? Why should this person, questioning, like, why do they look at me this way? You ever been in that place where it's like, again, you didn't really know what the evil eye was, or you didn't really know what spite or envy and jealousy? And the funny thing is, it's like, for some of us, becoming more aware of who we are, we knew that, like a deeper understanding now and overstanding more, like, you won't be as relatable or probably even relate to your family that you came through, like, not as you thought you would, because of the fact of just your purpose or your anointing or your life. And so it's like, when I look at what I'm here to orchestrate, or as the conductor at a point in time, has to turn its back to the whole audience. And for some people it can feel like a betrayal. I've even had someone recently, like I said before, when I was speaking about energy or like being done with certain things, I immediately got a message, and the message I didn't really read because I was laying down and going to bed. And it's so important that I didn't want to take that with me laying down, because I was like, you know what, whatever. I didn't think nothing of it, but I noticed how they worded it. But it was, the intention behind it was like, wow, you couldn't let us know that you were okay. And for me, as I shift more into breaking these generational cycles and chains, one moment, I feel like a sneeze coming up. I started to recognize more that for some people will be like, oh, I have to immediately reply, da 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 da. No, when you're doing, like, let's say this inner work of facing yourself more and more, you become more comfortable with self in a way of the safety aspect, and more uncomfortable with the fact of what people feel like you should conform to. And that's when the boundaries comes in. It's like, I didn't come this far to be like, oh, I'm gonna, whether this energy or people show up, this giving me an opportunity to close this out for good, or shut this door. And I'm saying like, whoa, this message is clear. It's clear. And for me, that usually I'll be like, my response would be like, oh, what do you mean? Da, 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 da. No, it's the awareness around, like, where I give my energy to now. Why does it matter? And they'll be all right, because if you waited this long, or however duration, then you will be just fine. And also, it's the importance of now being able to walk into said purpose, or have the confidence even more so to prioritize your well-being. Because again, these were moments where I used to have to feel like I had to be there for everyone else. Again, I realized, like, I told myself the other day, like, I'm done. Like, I'm done with this cycle of overcompensating. It took me 35 years to realize how much I was overgiving, oversharing, or just again, that whole concept around overcompensating, in partnerships, relationships, and so forth. And the importance of that is the reciprocity in that, and living a life that's more so fulfilling. Because if I keep sharing and doing this and, giving all this, where is that reciprocity? Where is, when am I going to allow myself to be poured into? Even the fact of, like, as I hold space for myself more to, before I react, let me catch myself or realize, like, you know what, this isn't worth it, or my worth is more valuable than me just assuming that I have to just react. And it's fine, let people be pissed or feel the way they feel, but at the same moment, I'm honoring that which it took me like this duration to even cherish and value. So now, going back to even the foundations of, again, the looking, or even, like I said, not so much as just the evil eye, but the fact of, like, how dare you not let us know, or how dare you move on, or how dare you step into your authenticity, your integrity, without informing us. And then I began to recognize, like, wow, this is the start of, already the beginning of, as I step into more of what I'm creating and building and stabilizing it stone by stone, brick by brick, I realized that it mirrors back the illusion that people had of me, or this casting this spell they assume that will linger through for the rest of my life. And it's like when I came in, it's like finding out the Wizard of Oz. People behind the scenes, again, you can recognize as family members or whomever else, or even the spiritual aspect of, who's really what people are battling with and what they're consumed by, and realizing, like, things behind the scenes who wanted to give off this false perception of what your life should be and so forth. So, and in times I used to wonder why people look at me a certain way, why did certain things happen, and then you realize, a lot of us start to realize, like, the acceptance of your purpose or your destiny, and walking into that, and how many people wanted to control or give this illusion that wanting you to do more of what they feel you should do is, for myself, is like allowing someone to decide your fate. By not walking into your truth, is giving your power to people to decide your destiny or your fate. But when you walk into your truth and be honest with yourself, you're giving yourself the opportunity to be guided to your destiny, or align with that which is a different timeline, a higher timeline, or a place of more harmony, more peace. And what I'm about to say is very vital. Eyes that light up when they see you. Imagine, like, again, the powers that anger used to be, a world that was run by envious people, self-hatred, forces that, so much of the malevolent forces that they wanted to create more chaos amongst the family structures and individuals and so forth, that they're not even concerned about living a life at all around fun, joy, happiness, the things that literally keep us in a more high vibration or a more balanced place. It's not to say stuff is not going to happen, but I don't think we realize how much of a world that we have created or enabled around dividing ourselves amongst each other, and the illusion of separation, to not be able to realize, like, early age, to where if you had a calling in your life before you arrived at, there were forces or certain things working against you coming into this very moment of your awareness, and how much of that impact will have an effect on humanity, or how, whatever number that is, because I honestly don't even know. And it first starting with the root cause, the family structure, you building your own tribe, and realizing, like, this is a ripple effect of how much so, as beyond you leave this world, how much so you can actually, if you pay attention, for those who are aware, seeing how your children are going to not only mirror back what you do, but the awareness around like them living in their individuality, they're living in their truth, in the beauty of not fearing transition or what some perceive as death, but realizing that they too have the sovereignty or the birthright to live out their mission and their purpose. And I feel like that's where a lot of the resentment for a lot of, let's say, spirits or souls or people who come here as individuals haven't lived out, or certain ancestors before who didn't want to do that, and mission was to abort or do anything otherwise to disrupt that. Again, seeing a deeper picture on like how we haven't had eyes that valued us. When I look at the aspect of being a darker man, growing up as a little boy that's darker, and then just the forces at play, how I'm perceived or how the media, all these energetic things that wanted to harvest the essence of an individual, you know, and then the aspect of how we're supposed to be perceived as humans or men and so forth. It is it's an uphill battle, but at the same time I realize like it becomes more peaceful when I allow myself to sit and rest while it may be perceived as an uphill battle. When I get to the top, I get the rest. Or when I, choosing to take a break or take a moment to myself and realizing like, yo, I don't have to carry all this by myself. This is something I have to let go of. And with that, that's a journey of realizing like, wow, I used to have these, I'm going to bring out into my word, I used to literally have these visions, I kid you not, when I was so young. I may have said this on another YouTube channel. And I would see these visions in my hometown, and I would see this car or cars drive by, and I remember specifically these eyes that would be in the car, and no matter where I went or what I was doing, these eyes that had so much, like, if you want to use the word wickedness or whatever, had so much hatred in it. And I used to have that when I was younger. I didn't know why. And now it became very clear that not all eyes, I want y'all to hear this, not all eyes are looking at you with love. Not all eyes. That's why they say the eyes are the window to the soul, but at the same moment, not all people here house, not necessarily just a soul, but house, vibrant or things that want to be free or want to be liberated. They actually are like want to cause whatever havoc or whatever and so forth. And I used to like catch wind of this as, again, like, imagine being somewhere where how little kids are, innocently. I've also seen kids that I know are spiritually or something on them where they don't look at you, with certain eyes. But imagine you growing up in an environment where your mother never looked at you with loving eyes or embracing eyes, or just from a place of compassion. That was something that really sat with me a while, for years, until I was like, I need to share this shit. And there was even times where, again, through a mother wound, where that mother wound internally, I couldn't see the part of me matriarchally in a healthy lens. So I used to fight so much to try to overcompensate in relationships to make someone, let's say a partner, a friend, or women in my life, to emphasize their beauty or to even control how they dressed or certain things. And the reason I say this is because you see this play out through society. Any way that there is a form of trying to control the matriarchal, the feminine energy, which is untamable, in a wounded masculine way, It's not the order or natural order of things. And I learned that through spiritual aspects. I learned it through lessons. I learned it through a lot of things, because through my interactions with my daughter before she arrived here, her mother, other women, I realized, I'm like, wow. When I say it's not so much the force behind what women carry, it's the power in how they navigate even some of the experiences men don't even get to, like, touch. And it goes for both, to where it's just men like, yo, and again, my perspective is different, but it's just, imagine, like, again, I'm gonna talk on different levels, where you don't have a country or environment or people who actually look at you in a healthy, holistic, vibrant, beautiful way. Imagine that. Like, I want y'all to realize how long this shit been going on since we were kids. We're acting like, and I'm not saying that this has to matter for people, but it does play on your psyche. It does play on your subconscious. It does play on even how you show up in the world, which can be intimidating, because people feel like you're not valuable in their eyes. Imagine that. That's what I feel like. Racism or self-hatred. I feel you're not valuable, so I'm going to hate you. Not just for the color of your skin, but this on a deeper level. I don't like something about myself. That's what I feel racism is. And with that, it's just other reasons we find what not to accept about someone, which we don't have to. Reflects a lot of where you see the division come in this world. That's like me creating a painting. And the stupid part about, it's a painting behind me, the ignorance about a lot of this, it's like the whole painting makes the masterpiece. But you'll find a reason not to like the black lines, the things that outline, the things that give things structure, the things that give. And I'm using black because again it's an additive, but I'm saying finding a reason not to like a color. It kind of makes sense why a lot of the structures are built with white walls and this black and white thinking, or right or wrong thinking, not really much independent thinking. And that's what's again, the powers that ain't or used to be were fearful of. And anyone who rose up and will try to be an independent thinker, because again, it's not structures that create independent thinking or self-sufficiency. No, it's been a loophole for keeping people in the fact of, this is how we view you, this is how we see you. We who? And it's wild because we believe it, or we take it on and allow it to be our hierarchy, or to even crown ourselves with the stupidity of someone else's fucking opinion. And that even goes for your mothers and fathers. And the reason I say that, I know a lot of y'all ain't gonna tell me I got a book on my nose, so even if I did, I'm gonna still make the video. So it's even more courageous to confidently realize like how much this has at a time affected my inner child. Because imagine not being classified as a color, so why the fuck I gotta prove myself as one? So a lot of these enabling, when I just see stuff on a deeper level, like when people are fighting for certain things. I get it. I'm not mad at it, because we can't ignore what has happened to people. But I also don't want people to continue to disregard and ignore what has happened for years, and outside of realizing that also color don't make you kin. Color also don't make you kin, but it's also the fact of your individuality, that you're still navigating through things with or without people. And there are going to be people that are going to support you that don't look like you. Some may not like you. Some may fight tooth and nail. But some gonna remind you, and the ones that gonna remind you that they don't like you or have this hatred for themselves, that shit don't come with, it doesn't even matter the color. But again, imagine growing up in a world as a human being and so forth. You're constantly reminded through media, through people closest to you, whether they know it unconsciously or not, showing you that you are no more valuable than this community. You are no more valuable than this religious belief. You are no more valuable than the money, no matter if you have billions or millions. On certain levels, people know they're still dealing with people who have hatred because they built their structures off that. So they still gonna remind your ass no matter how much you obtain. Come on now. Been there, done that. I've been around the mental health, even the people who it's so wild to even see people go through the fact of let me show you how deep the psychological warfare goes, to how people even want to be another color and not even accept their soul essence or even accept themselves within. And with that, it's like it just highlights a lot of well-being. Like I said, I'm just saying shit. It just is what it is. But at the same moment, it's my truth or whatever the truth is supposed to be. Like I said, one of my greatest battles, and why I had to really cut the distorted aspect of the mother away. A lot of people don't realize it's like, because having to mother yourself and mother your like nurture yourself, in a feminine aspect, like the wounds of yourself as a man, really highlights who is a representation of the distorted mother, or the who also has a wound that they're probably unconscious of, and it clearly gets, it's like a knocking on the door. And for me, I was like, wow, how did their mother see them? And the importance of that, not only how do their mother see them, how do they see themselves now? And this is why the mother and father wound is so vital. It's like for us to realize, like, our inner image, our inner child, how do we see that? And then we ask ourselves, who's given us this concept or this idea of what God is, what source is, what the Most High is, and how in that isn't it something that is miraculous or beautiful? How is it? Because to call someone ugly, or to call someone anything that is not of value is anything but what? Y'all can answer that. But again, this one of the biggest things for me, let me clear this up, is like I realized I was around consistently, and when you're early on being looked at from women, and this involves like the mother wound and the sexual traumas and a lot of things like that. When you're looked at young like that, you actually take this concept of like being looked at that like that, take that behavior pattern, like this is acceptable, that women have touched me young, well, this has been allowed. So you carry that image, you carry that how could I say, like that memory, and you learn that behavior pattern. Like, okay, I'm imagine like a adult. I'm gonna let this happen just to see if like she's gonna accept me, or I'll let her disrespect me. I think, isn't this like, like in the childlike way? I think this is how my mother showed it, right? This is how I seen it young, so I'm gonna do this. Now imagine that with people who even carry the spirit of hatred or racism, or people who even, I'm going to be a proud racist, I'm going to be just like my father. Like, imagine this shit, y'all. Imagine people literally unconsciously carrying this ancestral baggage or this idea of how their mother and father's belief system is something that's going to carry them out in what they perceive a successful life. And imagine people building an identity around that success, and that's what you see in society. The narcissism around that, the control around that, the controlling their buildings or their corporations, controlling the fact of, yeah, I'm not gonna let nobody in here that is of this shade, or or I just want to build upon things that just keep other people that because of the history or because of it. And I get it. I see this with all shades. I get it. But this goes even deeper again. It's like, this is why the inner child, how disconnected we have been from our essence and so forth, is that how are we've been so disconnected from our innocence and essence that we don't even sit back and watch. Like, I'm telling you, this is how shit I've seen in daycare, I've seen it I've seen it in parks and so forth, right? You can be somewhere even as a darker man, right? Or even whoever you are. You can come around people who classify and who are in a different class, or who have built whatever type of world on whatever it is belief system. To each their own, right? You can come in there having whatever you is, be well off and so forth, right? But simply by, let's say, color your skin, by what you represent, what type of group, what type of something that you're in, and all of a sudden, people will find any reason to divide. And then you can be in a setting also where you will see kids get along. This is how disconnected y'all have been from the fact of what source actually represents. You will see kids real small on the playground get along so well. Don't find a reason until it's instilled in them very young. And this is where accountability isn't for people who, like I said, I'm not asking you to care. You can live your life out not having to ever want to deal with people who maybe are darker or whatever it is a certain religions believe and so forth. I call it ignorance. You might call it truth or beautiful. To each their own. It just amazes me how we'll be called in certain spaces in our life to allow our children to connect, but you will see people have so much curiosity just as a child would, and they'll hold it in, they'll be passive aggressive, they'll even sometimes want to be a part of things, but due to their inability to connect on a deeper level emotionally, they won't do it because they'll be outcasted. And this happens all the time. It's so many different graphics, and not just people that are dark. It happens all the time when you see people, what they call them, culture vulture, or coming in, and this happens in the industry. People know this has been happening, and it's like people prioritize the mask over the authenticity. And it's like, it's certain things with family or certain people now. It's like when I say I cannot relate, it's because I cannot fake the fact of you're not being real, you're not being authentic, you're not even being you. Guess what? That shit's like a disease to me. That shit would affect me and those who are connected to me. So I ain't gonna hang with the enemy, let alone sleep with it. Some of us can relate to that. So, damn, that shit tripped on my shirt. I know you ain't gonna tell me, but it's all good. So, again, it's almost like the school of life is just really learning that I don't see people of status create a culture no different than a school setting in a way. Who's wanting to be popular? more than someone else? Who's a class jockey? What do they call it? Who clicks up? Who wants to do this? Like this, like on the world stage, it's just like it's motherfuckers the same way you see in a school setting, because these are the same fucking templates. These are the same floor plans that you see play out on a global scale. The schools are so divided. That's why they have to name shit the same way. The society, the communities are so divided. You got 30 churches on one street on every corner, and you got pastors competing with each other no matter their culture and creed. You got this person out trying to out-preach this person. You got even people feeling like they're going to do their own thing for self-righteous reasons and bring women, just to prove that women can do certain things. Like, it's all coming from a place that seems like of ego. It's all, like, again, my perspective, it seems like it's all coming from a place of people who don't have the inability to connect to their essence or who they really are. There's no individualism in what you see today's society, because we're given this narrative of believing like, look to this person, or this person has this person has done so much of this, they're great, support them in every way. I don't even fucking know you. I don't know nothing about your character. I don't know what you do. Why should I even care? So even with that, again, I don't know personally how this person interacts with children. I don't even know personally what this person does outside of their career. I don't even know if we even vibe or on the same frequency. So in this, I recognize, again, one of the biggest hurdles that I had to overcome is the fact of how, for people that knowingly go through this, and I'm going to speak on people that are dark in this country, especially a darker man, those who have really went through things that I'm going to list. The greatest thing you can ever do, not even list, but the greatest things you can ever do is be reborn through your circumstances, through your emotional intelligence, whether, you couldn't at a time connect to who you were, and just as men in general, wherever you are starting over. But I highlight the reason I say darker boys because of the target and the emphasis on just in America or nationwide, to how much even through the false perception of performance over performing over prioritizing your well-being, or just being you. And I tell you all the time, like, I know people of certain status that deep down their inner child just want to walk the street. They just really want to be normal, and they're so consumed by an overhaul, or they even overcompensate. If you call them a celebrity, they still are taught to overcompensate. They still come from those generations of everyone's a star, but like come from those generations of foundations and floor plans of supporting being overexertion and being overcompensating. Like I said, some people have that ability to do that, but at the same time, I also sit on a deeper level where Solara expresses that more for those who are ready for that, like on a deeper cellular level, or even just the fact of like how certain celebrities or people of certain status, no longer, but were the siphoning of energy, how people are supposed to, and some even use the term destiny swapping, or just trying to stay relevant so much so to where it like burns them out, or even the fact of like things just being returned to the originals, or the to the roots of where they begin. And this is already the start of that new order of things, where it's not about idolizing or gluttony or greed, But so many people that you know are so consumed by that, and they're gonna follow their own sword. So, because again, these are not templates or these are not foundations that were built upon well-being, so they don't know how to go away, or they don't know how to sit down, and that comes from the generations where a lot of them was exposed so young, just as anybody else on all levels. These folks are going through shit just like anybody else, the whole life, but they just mask it well. But other than that, again, that hurdle I had to come over is, and for a lot of men, it's like realizing like you have to be reborn through the fact of anything that was given to you to try to derail your identity or you walking in your truth. And that is one of the day-to-day huge accomplishment, just by getting through the day, just by standing in your purpose, just by honoring your gifts, and being a cycle breaker. So yeah, again, the greatest hurdle in itself was overcoming the naysayers, or not even just the external noise. It was more than that. It was more the internal noise that I wanted to ignore, that the world would teach me to silence and to mask with strength and, hard working and keep going. And in reality, I'm like, yeah, nah. And through that, I realized like the foundations began to crumble with other people as I more and more start stepping into myself, stepping away but stepping more into myself. So, what was that? Yeah, the hurdle in itself was overcoming those odds that were stacked up against you, and even again how one is portrayed to the world, the image of that, and how you have to reconstruct that, rebuild that. Also the what was the word I was looking for? What was that? Just men, and then young men too, like realizing like through your inner identity, that being, more so like connected to your mother, and realizing like you're going to be reborn through your experiences naturally. I'm going through one right now. It's almost like a phoenix. Like you're going to naturally be reborn through your experience, because the world wants to tell you how you should be, what you should do, how you should go about things. I'm not holding that right, because oh my gosh. And like I said, it goes a little deeper to where like I'm seeing it now play out to where the idea of people like had to be like let me go deeper. Like someone was telling me today, like this guy, his brother, I cut his hair, and he was just telling me how his sister, unconsciously, or they came out and told him like see him as a father figure. And I'm able to recognize the fact of how, again, the unhealed aspect of women who aren't aware of their father wound will see all men like this, even their brothers. Now, I've never talked about this deeply, but when he gave me clarity of that, I was like, whoa. I was like, I realized like this enmeshment thing, or this emotional incest thing that people are unaware of, when you look at the whole matriarchal aspect that has been enabling these very things, it goes as deep as like some of us have, as men, will be somewhat a savior complex to our sisters, or have been in a way to where the survivor's remorse, where we even sometimes have to come in and try to save them from their relationship drama, or step in, because they feel like, oh, you brother, and especially for some of them who have already had a rap of being, let's say, a thug or violent or whatever, this identity around that. But in reality, a lot of people don't know. I know this is going to liberate a lot of young men. Bro, that is not your problem. That's not your solution. I'm not saying in moments where you cannot hold her accountable, but that's the thing about the honesty that hasn't been instilled in a lot of modern day women, is because they did not also have honest and floor plans or foundation. And so that's one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome. Where there were times where my sisters or certain people would call me in regards to my mother. I'm like, I'm not her father. But there were times where I had to step in and I had to come to that self-realization, like, whoa, this is someone else who can relate. Times where a brother will go, the guy was telling me, like, yeah, bro, they would call me all the time. But now it goes back to that reciprocity aspect, where when you're no longer not just accessible, but when you're evolving or choosing to step more into yourself and come from a more holistic place, which is not prioritized. In modern day society, they are used to a more of a violent, disrespectful, man and woman, in certain, or even if the certain demographics, a passive man. Again, I always said, like, I don't see no difference. A person who can be passive can also be violent, because again, if they're not enabled, or not even enabled, there's something that eventually will enable them. There's something that will trigger them, and if they don't have the awareness around navigating that, you see this all the time in shootings, a lot of stuff, no matter who is demonstrated by, and it says a lot about the well-being. And then so the importance of, again, how I said I had to cut off a lot of the matriarchal aspect, the distorted mother of that, is because what is enabling the foundation of what I'm creating? How is that? Now, it led me to grow, like more spiritual growth, internal growth, and expanding, but also growth in my life. How I should bridge from dealing with women who are not aware and taking accountability of their actions, and accepting that role and what they play a part in how they created this outcome, also into recognizing more responsible women who are holistic or who are more healthier for themselves and those around them. So this is where you begin to recognize the liability that people are unaware, where they call you out of emotions or they want you to come in and do this and do that, and in reality you're naturally as a man who wants to be assertive and be the protector and provider, and in reality you're trying to do this as a representation of a father energy. And a lot of them, what I recognize is, I didn't get to ask him. But I was like, bro, I didn't get to tell him, because we were just like having healthy dialogue. I didn't get to tell him, but he was saying, like, yeah, bro, like, they would call me for this and do this and do that. I'm like, dang. What I really wanted to get around to him to say was, did they get this from their father? What did they receive from their father that they're asking you to do? And when you look at this fucking society, when you look at how men think that they're supposed to just come in, when a woman say you have to provide and protect and do this, or when do you get where I'm going at with this? And it goes both ways when you're dealing with a man with a mother wound. But it goes both ways, where I'm like, a lot of these dudes, you'll see a lot of unaliving or a lot of things happen because it ain't just from an emotional place from that person, that girl, or he say, she say. It's more so from a place of emotional immaturity. I've seen it all the time, where people can just say through manipulation, through, again, emotional immaturity or instability, to where they just let things go, and all of a sudden they say one thing that's not what they meant, and someone gets hurt. So again, we have enabled young men to believe, to also be in this savior complex and forget about their well-being. Not to mention how much the displacement of how religion has played a role in that, with that floor plan of how it taught women to be so passive aggressive on how they really feel and never have sit downs and authentic conversations without a certain religious figures being implemented. That person ain't here. What you did to your son ain't got nothing to do with God and Jesus or anyone else. Where's the accountability? And that's real, because a lot of people scapegoat through Jesus or try to use a certain character. Y'all try to scapegoat through anything. And that's why I realized, like, I was telling bro, I was like, yo, you're not being scapegoated through no more. And this is what is collapsing the overcompensation of what we have been in society. Even as a darker man, it takes a lot of courage to realize, like, bro, fuck y'all narratives of a man that's darker, or even a man. I don't give a fuck about your narratives. Go write that. Go type that. Go give that to the FBI, CIA, or someone. He's not doing what we want him to do. Ain't nobody being afraid of being, like, targeted. I felt this shit. A lot of us felt this shit young, when you were targeted spiritually. So physically, what the fuck? I was already reminded of that young. Because that's the thing about, to some people, you're going to be perceived as a threat. That's what makes your presence intimidating. It's something within you that intimidates them. So, and that's what people run with, is they run with a fear narrative or fear foundation. And a lot of us are realizing, like, fear ain't nothing but facing everything and rise. I ain't got to face it and run. Face everything and run? No. Bitch, I'm going to be reborn through the fact of everything that was thrown at me, I'm going to transmute it and alchemize it. Those narratives are no different than growing up in environments where I had to overcome the hatred of women who look like me. And their eyes were not of joy and peace and embracing. That was one of the biggest things that a lot of us as darker men, or young boys, that are like having to rebuild not only an inner image, but that being looked at from a mother or from a woman through a lens of hatred. It's almost like you're being cursed. Or that look is still an importance of how you develop your inner dialogue about yourself through the actions of others. You know, when people have doubt or self-doubt or go through depression or whatever you want to call it, and they question themselves, did I deserve this? I forgot what that was. It not Stockholm syndrome. It's one of those things where people don't realize, like, they're not even aware that they don't even have respect for themselves, so they allow people to disrespect them. Man, fuck y'all. Fuck this narrative. Fuck them characters. Fuck all that shit that people think that they can send my way, or even just to think that I don't see through the illusions. That's what you gotta get to. It's like, bro, you tried. It's done. Because the focus has to be rebuilding and reconstructing individually who you are in an authentic way, in an integrative way, in an honest way. So you don't have to question yourself in the world or wherever you're navigating through, and let alone you'll be more discerning of these fictitious characters, or fugazi characters in the world who have lied to themselves. You got, like, some of these people, it's just like, the discernment is so powerful to where you can see people as soon as they get on, like, a podcast, or as soon as something is portrayed. I'm like, bro, like, who you fooling? How long you gonna keep that shit going? And y'all wonder why a lot of shit crumbling, because, again, those floor plans of these certain characters that was put in place to push the narrative to the youth, to anything else, to make them believe, like, oh my gosh, this is who I'm supposed to be. We already got to overcome the fact of dealing with mothers that hated themselves and projected it onto us, or dealing with society who hated us or wanted to remind us of our inability to be amazing just naturally without having to perform, whether through sports or anything else, or music. Oh, it's your birthright. your sovereignty, your expression of who you are, that shit don't, like, y'all keep allowing these people to determine that, like, how valuable you are as much as they project it to the world. Like, this person is this person is this, you should be this too. So, you know, and again, that's one of the most, again, challenging hurdles of overcoming the fact that, like, whoa, I realized, like, this thing is much deeper emotionally when it comes to the mother womb. And, you know, again, that's that matriarchal aspect I always tell y'all about, that's so important to how we rebuild the world for the youth. If we don't pay attention to how these mothers are mothering these sons and these daughters, and pay attention now how these fathers are showing up, like, if we don't pay attention to observe now, why do y'all sit here and act like y'all care so much? You don't. Because your inner child and those who represent those of, like, the Orisha, those who, you know, whatever belief system you have, where the fuck is the compassion in what the fuck you believe in? Y'all call yourself goddesses, mothers.
Man,
y'all call yourself
the time is
all these
things. In the library will be closing promptly at 6 p.m.
Okay, dude.
Please use this time to take care of any customer service needs, include all your meetings, and arrange for a ride home.
Anywho, yeah, like, y'all gotta realize, like, where the fuck is the compassion really for the kids? Man, this got to be the biggest fucking, America got to be the biggest fucking, like, this is a fucking circus right now. I be sitting back like, damn, another shooting. Damn, I be sitting back like, damn, another this, another that. I be like, bro, this shit is like a circus. And you gotta decide, bitch, I'm not finna be a clown in your circus. So I'm watching the party die. Motherfuckers wanted you to be a part of the dysfunctional party. Nah, I'm watching that shit die. People want you to be a part of the like, you gotta realize, like, bro, a lot of y'all are clowns. A lot of this shit is foolery and clownish to me. It's like, y'all really out here performing. Performance over integrity. Performance over individuality, truth and love, performance. I keep telling y'all about to see clear. Like, people follow their sword, bro. I'm not finna be sitting back clapping and be like, wow, man. It's just divinely orchestrated, bro. Like, this shit be so hilarious to me. I'm like, bro, I'm gonna let motherfuckers follow their sword, G. And once you start to really sit back and observe, you'll realize no one has ever tricked you out of your position. There was forces at play that wanted you to realize, like, your positioning was already you being ordained to come here to remember and recall your position, your authority, to call back your power, to return your power. Your remembering is your power returning to you. When you look at the word prime and primordial, this is what's returning to the matriarchal. The rising of the divine, masculine and feminine. I love my image of the masterpiece where I was like eating the popcorn on here. The recovery book, oh my gosh. That's like my favorite one. It's like, I see what's going on, I'ma just mind my fucking business. I'm not getting to nobody's shit right now. I can tell when certain shit want to return. I'm like, bro, I'm discerning right now. You can be angry at me all you want to, bro. Focus on a mission. I love you. That don't mean I don't love, man. I love me. I honor me. I embrace this shit. I'm bind that shit, return to sender, transmute it, alchemize it into to a higher timeline to bliss. It's hard. You transmute that shit into some digital currency. Like, I'm grateful, I'm honored, but bro, nah. I wish y'all well, man, for real. Better get with it. Get with it, but also remember, no one's bigger than the program. A lot of these folks that's gonna fall where they score are going to realize, nigga, you was never bigger than the program. I don't give a fuck how big your name is on an earthly status. You ain't bigger than the program. Now who gonna check me? Who the fuck gonna check me on that? Yeah, ain't none of y'all bigger than the program. When it's just like when some shit come to the software need to update, that software ain't that's gonna be the title, software update. Ain't nothing in that update. Ain't nothing in that update asking like, oh, we're not ready to upgrade. We're not ready. And this is the stupidity and the ignorance in society. Like, we're not even excited about upgrading, evolving. That's what the excitement is about, bitch. We evolving. The only people that ain't excited about this is gonna be made very clear. That's why a lot of us decided to be like, bro, I'm a part of this upgrade. It's even more, I sit here and say this, I'm like, bro, this is a software update. Ain't nobody can stop a software update. You know what them updates you get and they tell you this is the terms and conditions? Your life is the same thing. You're just seeing it happen inward and reflect it outward. You want to hold on to this motherfucker. They're not a part of the update. They're a part of it, but at the same time, the update is for you to expand, to evolve past that. Again, the biggest hurdles, and one of the biggest hurdles was realizing, like, wow, I grew up. A lot of us can relate to that. When you grow up in environments where a lot of eyes are looked at you with so much hatred, so much disgust, man, y'all don't realize how much it takes for a person to go inward and to start to declutter and realize none of that shit matter. What they said about me, how they viewed me, how they looked at me, and so forth. Because that plays out from your inner child, and you carry that inner child into your adulthood. That's why so many people are so unhealthily attached to someone else's opinion or how the world views them. It's because whatever their childhood development or their floor plan that they were given young, their foundation reflects that shit now. Like, bro, like, we were already destined with a floor plan, and again, how as we grow, we choosing to update our life. Some people say upgrade. Yes, upgrade. When you upgrade, and you don't take the same fucking clothes and same shit and even the same people with you. That's how I used to say. I'm like, bro, if I'm upgrading, some things just ain't going with me. That's just what it is. They can be mad or not. So what? They got their whole life to live. If they was ready to update their life and upgrade it, they would have done the inner work. They would have changed. They would have did certain things. Other than that don't mean that they get to enjoy the upgrade with you. I had to accept that shit. Through unhealthy attachments and codependency, I felt like everyone was supposed to come along, or everyone was supposed to be a part of this. No, because their inability not to want to shift within themselves or be able to realize, like, oh, this shit is happening in my life because I'm upgrading or something's changing. Let me not fight it. You don't see a virus in the computer trying to fight the fucking upgrade, the software update, do you? No. And that's what's the African proverb. You don't see branches fighting amongst trees. I mean, you don't see, branches fighting amongst themselves or something like that. And it's like, yo, what are we doing here? I'm not finna, man. As a sitting back, I'm like, bro, I'm not finna sit. What? To overcome that, one of those biggest things where I'm like, bro, I remember I used to get looked at in a way with such disgust from women who I recognize now who never had a healthy outlook on their life, or they were never perceived as something vibrant and beautiful. Or even the fact of, let's say people who were sexually abused, their outlook can be different. They may think that people should only look at them in a sexual manner. You see that shit on social media. This is the lens that has been given to us. This is a narrative that has been given to us, and we don't even realize as we step more into our individuality and express it in our own unique way, we shatter all those illusions, floor plans, and societal norms and so forth. And that shit is beautiful because you upgrade your life. You're realizing like, bro, I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it, and at the same moment, it's valuable. And you can balance it out with whomever you like and enjoy with whomever you like. So I'm gonna get ready to go. I'm finna go enjoy some more me time. Y'all take care of yourself. Peace and blessings. Shalom.